Hey, what's going on, fellas? So, I don't know if you guys pay attention to other techie channels. Why wouldn't you? Um, like Northwest Repair and Northridge Fix, something like that. Um, and there's a little scuffle between, Alex and Tony from Northwest Repair about flux. And according to Tony, Northridge Fix Flux, it's not that good. It has certain issues with it where it solidifies once the card or the board, wherever you're working on, cools off. And I'm telling you this from experience, that that's not a good thing. It should remain, a good flux should remain liquidy once it cools off, once your work area cools off, and you are able to wipe it off easily. Now, if it solidifies and it becomes like burnt sugar, you know what I mean, or something like that, that's not good quality stuff. That's stuff that you should avoid as much as possible. Now, there are cases for when that type of flux is actually desirable, and this is one of those cases. This here, this is not original Kimbo. This is the knockoff Chinese stuff. It's not the Japanese original Kimbo flux. But there is a place and time for this type of flux. This is the flux that I use for reballing. So if I'm adding cores to, or I'm sorry, if I'm adding balls to a memory chip, or if I'm adding balls to a core, this is the flux that I use. I don't use anything else. And the reason why I do that is because even it's pretty thick, it's pretty tacky. Even at high temperature, it is very tacky. And after it reaches a certain temperature, after a certain amount of time, it starts to not completely evaporate, but what it does, it kind of evaporates a little bit, but there is some still on the board, the area that you're working on. So when you go and apply more heat, which is when you start to solder the balls to the GPU core or the VRAM, the extra heat activates the remaining amount of flux that is on the PCB. And then you start seeing the balls kind of moving into place, not too much, but just moving into the pads and melting into place. So this is the stuff that I use here, and even though it is a knockoff, it works really good. So I have for many years used this stuff, also Chinese, and it's knockoff wannabe Antec 559. I've seen it with the Antec label here, and everything else the same. So, but I don't know. Anyway, I have used this stuff for many years, and it works. It does actually perform really well. Not for reballing, but for microscopic, or not microscopic, but micro soldering. Like whenever you want to work around with SMDs, and whatever type of SMD you want to work with, replacing power connectors, that sort of thing. This is the stuff that I use. It's not as smoky as this garbage here, which you will find all over the internet, especially AliExpress. This stuff is horrendous. It's the RMA 223, and you can tell the difference in the colors. See here, this one here is a bit darker than the Dsunyk, whatever the heck this thing is called. There's also this stuff here, the Relife, this type of flux that you can get off of AliExpress. Now, recently I have started using this Nano Flux from Mechanic. Let's see here. Yep, this stuff right here. It's the M3 Nano Flux Pace, they call it, and it actually performs really well. I'm gonna show you guys right now how most of these perform as far as like smoke and how easy or not easy it is when you're soldering your SMDs. And yeah, so let me just let's just get into the microscope, and I'll show you guys on some donor boards how this stuff performs. Now keep in mind that I will be using a preheater because I want to simulate how you would be using this if you're doing repairs. You know, you probably want to be using a preheater. For some small soldering, you may not need it. I use it almost always, even if it's a small SMD, because I just like my life easy. I don't want to complicate things. So let me show you what this stuff looks like. Yeah. All right, so now the board has reached working temperature. How about we start with this little guys right here. And yes, I am not using one of those bulky microscopes because for me, number one, I just cannot justify replacing this little Chipotle one that I bought some years ago. It's been working for me just fine. It has never been an issue when it comes to any type of repairs, being grit pads or whatever, any type of micro soldering. This thing is done just fine, so why would I need to replace it? And also it allows me to have more room in my desk for other things that I need to be using. So okay, how about we start with the one that I've been this stuff here, the Duni, the Chinese stuff that I've been using for years. Let's see how this stuff behaves when it comes to smoke and if it's going to be easy to work with. Okay. So that's a bit much there, but it's okay. And by the way, I am working with leaded solder. I do not use that lead-free stuff. You will never see me using that ever. Yeah, that's just not going to happen. So this here is a mixture of tin and lead. So okay, you can already tell that, you know, there's a lot of smoke, but this is actually from the wire itself, not from the flux here. So let's see how well this does here. You can see there's some smoke there, but yeah, overall, I mean, it does a pretty good job here. I mean, there's some user error there where kind of pads are sticking, or the soldering is sticking there because I think I used too much. But if you didn't have to, and keep in mind, this is a donor board that has never been worked on as far as like repair. So the solder that's on here is that lead-free stuff. But you can see how this flux works really well with lead solder, no issue. So I mean, you're quickly able to pick up the excess solder, and I have a lot of it on this tip, as you can see. Pretty generous when it comes to this stuff here. But as far as the smoke, there is some smoke, as you can see there, but it's not much. So let's back off a little bit so you guys can get a better picture of, you know, what I'm talking about as far as the smoke is concerned. And if you see some smoke, believe me, that is nothing compared to the other cheap stuff that's out there. So yes, there is some smoke, as you can see there. And let's just add some here on the side. Let's add some on the board itself, just to demo what I'm talking about. So this is not like on a mat, you know, repair mat or anything. This is directly on the board. And yeah, there is some smoke, but nothing crazy. So you can see there. That's the reason why I have kept using this flux for so many years, because it is okay. It just, you know, it does what it's supposed to, and I'm pretty happy with that. All the smoke that you see here is actually from the wire. So, but when it comes to the flux itself, as you can see there, and my temperature right now is 330 Celsius. For those that are wondering. So yeah, it does okay, as you can see. Now just let's wipe off the tip And let's just start with this with the smoke test, because that's what a lot of YouTubers out there that are doing the same thing here, this stuff here, are concerned with. They seem to point out, they hang themselves on the smoke. Now this is the Kimbo knockoff from China. So let's see how well this does when it comes to smoke directly on a PCB, as you would. Let's see. And you go, yeah, you can see that. Oof! Oh my gosh, this stuff smokes like crazy. Look at that. Oh my gosh, I don't think you guys are getting the full picture, but let's just back off here. Yeah, this stuff smokes like crazy, man. So this is why I don't use it for everyday work, like soldering stuff, like micro soldering, like this stuff here, because of this. It's just too wild, and once this cools off, once the board cools off, this becomes solid like glue. So that's why I don't like using that. So with the clean tip, let's try now the what is it, Zunix, the one that I've been using for a while now. Let me just refocus here, and we're gonna use the Dsunyk now without any solder added to the tip. Okay, so let's just go here. So this is just the heat and the flux itself, and this is, yeah, there it is smoky, not as bad as the Kingbo. So yeah, it is still a little bit smoky, but not as bad as the Kimbo. Yeah, so this is something that I can deal with, and my fume extractor can collect. I don't have it on right now because you guys will not be able to hear me. So so yeah, so that's Kimbo and Zunix here. This is with solder on the tip. This is without solder. Okay, so as you can see there, it is still smoky, not as bad as this one though. So yeah, and this stuff works really well when it comes to micro soldering, as you guys were able to see here. But so let's bring you guys here, and we try something. Let's clean up those pads real quick, because I got bridged pads there, and we don't want that. Okay, and this is without any solder on the tip. There we go, and boom, works really nice. So yeah, all right, so that's good. Okay, so I'm happy with this. Now let's add some leaded solder to the next chip right below it, to this chip here, and that's a lot. Let me wipe some of that off. Okay, yeah. Okay, there. And the only other thing about this Dsunyk flux is that it does turn brown after a while. If you just let it hang out for too long, it will turn brown on you, as you're starting to see here. But other than that, look, if I can go back and forth. This is error related, user related, but yeah, it works just fine. You can just go one swipe, and yeah, it'll do the trick. It'll do the job. But now the one that I really wanted to I want to do is I want to test the Nano Flux from Mechanic, the M3 or M35 stuff, whatever. This is the stuff that I just started using, so I am so far I am pretty satisfied with it. Let's do the smoke test with this right here, but let's back off so you guys can get a better picture of what I'm talking about. All right, let's do it right there, right between the 10 and the trash can. Yeah, And another thing, like as soon as I put a little bit of pressure on this syringe, this stuff just, you know, like on the plunger, this stuff just comes out. It's very liquidy. Yeah. So without any solder on the tip, let's see how this, how much smoke comes out. And not that much smoke. Look at that, not that much smoke. So it's a little bit better than the Zunix stuff that I've been using. It does create a little bit of smoke, but this is very this is very good actually, you know, compared to the Dsunyk stuff and the Kimbo stuff. So this is why I have switched to this for most of my work, except for reballing. I use this in a combination with the Kimbo flux. So yeah, it's pretty good when it comes to, you know, smoke. So that's just the tip here. But there, see how it kind of, the smoke goes down once I lift up the tip. Now it's just burning off the residue that's on the tip. So this is okay. I can deal with this because as soon as I lift it up, it's going to the sponge and my brass wire here that I have for cleaning up the tip. And as you can see, everything is gone. So let's test the Mechanic one on these little microchips here. This SMDs right here, which are similar to the ones up at the top. Well, you see how the Zunix is already getting brown. Well, in all fairness, it's been just hanging out there. So, but here I'm going to use only the Mechanic, to see how this stuff performs before and after. And so let's add some leaded solder here. That's too much. But even with, man, okay. Yeah. But even with a ton of solder at the tip, this stuff works really well. I actually have not done a test like this. You know, I've just busy working, not really focusing on how it performs. But man, look at this! A ton of solder on the tip, but okay. So maybe I should clean it up a little bit. All right. So let's see how it does now. Look at that! And look, it's very little smoke. Very little smoke. I have to say, I'm pretty impressed, you know, when it comes to this stuff here. I just haven't been paying attention to it too much. Let's add some leaded solder here as well on this side. Okay. And then let's clean up the tip because there's a ton of solder there. Again, these are little tiny chips, so yeah, it looks, believe me, it's not as bad as it looks. But there we go. Look at that. And I still have some solder there at the tip, as you can see there. But this Mechanic stuff, man, it works. Look, no smoke. Look at this stuff. Let's clean that one up a little bit there. We have a bridge. Okay, there we go. See here, this is user related or user error. There we go. So yeah, I am very happy with this Mechanic stuff. That's why it has replaced my Dsunyk, you know, Chinese knockoff, even though they're both from China, the Mechanic and the Dsunyk, but made by different manufacturers, obviously, different people. But yeah, look at this. Very little smoke, if any, and it does the job really well. Now, as far as turning brown, you can kind of see that it is turning brown there on me. Now granted, it's been sitting on the board for a little while now, and my tip itself is starting to turn brown as well, so maybe that's a little bit of user error. So I'm allowing it to transfer over to the board, to the flux. But if you look at that, right? If you look at that versus this stuff here, it's quite a difference. So granted, this has been on there for a lot longer, so I'm not going to go too hard on it, but yeah, the Mechanic M330, what's it called? No, M35, M35, looking pretty good. Yeah. Now let me just also show you how the how the worst of them all, as far, in my opinion, the worst of them all is this garbage here. Let's look at it. Yeah, you guys a better shot there. This stuff here, RMA 223. This stuff right here is it does okay when it comes to micro soldering, but man, the smoke, it's unbearable. The smell is unbearable, and also how much smoke it creates in your work area as you're using this crap. And sorry for all the shakiness, guys. That's just the way this works for me. Not that I find it pleasant, but it is what I got to work with, and yeah, that is what it is. Okay, so let's test this cheap Antic wannabe, even though it doesn't say Antic on there, but it used to say Antic before. But they've since removed the label, and there's no solder on this tip, and yeah, it's a little bit of a flux on there, but yet this thing is, yeah, let's get some solder on the tip here. And I've used this for many years, and it has worked for me. I just don't like the smell. So yeah, it does work, as you can see there. I do have some solder on the tip there, and it's running pretty well. So it is cheap. It does work, but it creates this horrible stench. It's unbearable. And so a fume extractor with this stuff is a must. You have to use a fume extractor, or your whole workplace will be smelling like chemicals. But yeah, so you can see there, it does work. It is cheap, but the stench, the smoke, it's unbearable. And another thing about this also is that it turns brown relatively fast, and also once it turns brown, it's a bit harder to remove. So yeah, it's not that smoky, but just the smell, take my word for it, it is horrible. This stuff is not pleasant at all. But yeah, it does work. It's just, you get what you pay for, basically. That's what I'm trying to say. So yeah, guys, this is just what it looks like from top down and everything. Now keep in mind that I have had this here for a while now, over 5 minutes. You can see that it's turned brown. This is the Mechanic that I've used here, the M35, and this is the cheap, Amtech wannabe Flux, and you can kind of see that it's already turning brown, and it hasn't even been that long either. So yeah, so that's it is what it is. But as far as like smoke, yeah, already removing SMDs here. Let's pour some of that stuff here and see how it reacts to some heat. Let's go over here. just on the PCB. Okay. Okay. And as you can see, it's yeah, it's pretty smoky. Yeah, it's a lot of smoke there, and it is a horrible smell. Now, one thing I do like about the Dsunyk, what is it? Yeah, Dsunyk, and this stuff here is that it doesn't boil. See this right here? I had this in there for a while, and there is no boiling. So this is one of those qualities that I like about this cheap stuff, that it does not boil. Well, it doesn't boil that easily. The Zunix is the same quality. Let's go with the oh no, this is the Kimbo. Let's try the Dsunyk and see how it does when it comes to boiling. It's the Zunix stuff here. We're gonna put you here. See if it starts boiling. Now again, my heat on my soldering tip here, it's 330 Celsius. But as you can see, there's no boiling going on there. And I would say the smoke is about the same as the other cheap stuff. But it doesn't smell as bad. It's very different. This one here has a more mild smell to it. A little bit chemical-y, chemical stuff smell, but not as bad as the other one. It's tolerable. And if you have a fume extractor, even better, because you'll never smell this stuff. It's not as bad. But again, as you can see, no boiling. Okay, which is really good. That's why I have worked with the Dsunyk for so many years, because yeah, it works really well when you're attaching things to the board. There's no boiling going on there. Now, my understanding, according to Tony from Northwest Repair, is that the the Northridge fix flux boils really easy. Now let's look at this Mechanic M35. Let's see how it does, if it boils or not. Let's just put it up here. There. See how this does. And again, there is no boiling. So yeah, and that's why these this thermal or not thermal, but these fluxes, I have stuck with these from cheap to mediocre, to okay, to this Mechanic stuff, which I kind of like more now. The more I use it, the more I like it. So yeah. So in conclusion, my advice would be to use if you just if you don't want to pay crazy amount of money, the Dsunyk works just fine. It does the job for you. It will do the job for you. It is this stuff right here. And if you ask me, I will post a link where you can get this stuff, where I got it, and where you can get it from AliExpress. And it is priced really well. Now, the only one that I have not tested is the Relife. So let's do that, and that will be my conclusion of this video here. I don't want to make this longer than it really should be. But let's start with the just for funsies, let's start with the smoke test. And this is the Relife stuff that I was telling you about. Yeah, this stuff here. Let's put you up here, and look at that. I haven't even applied any heat. I haven't even applied any heat with my solder tip. That's why I don't use this stuff. And it's already boiling. Look at that. Look at that. Look at all that boiling. Look at all that smoke. And I'm telling you, this is really, really, really smoky. And you can see on the tip there of the solder tip, it's boiling around there, around the tip. You can see that there. that's why I don't use this for everyday work. And I switched from this to the Kimbo because of this very thing here, this bubbling. I didn't like that. And I think this is the reason why some of my my reballing in the past, I was having trouble with my memory chip sticking, my core sticking to the to the pads because of this here. All this bubbling can create issues with your balls while they're still melted. They can switch on you or move around because of this movement here, all these bubbles, this bubbly action. But anyway, this stuff is horrible. I don't recommend it. Don't buy it. Stay away from it. Yeah, and it also turns brown really quick. Look at that. Now granted, I have had my tip in there, but still, even just with everyday work, you will notice how quickly this stuff turns brown. So the Relife, what is it called? Let me post it here so you guys can see it. This stuff here is stuff you need to stay away from. It's terrible stuff, and some people swear that this stuff is good. It might be good for whatever other type of work that they're doing. When it comes to BGA rework, stay away from this stuff. Micro soldering, when it comes to that, small stuff, stay away from it, because all that bubbling will cause problems when it comes to your small SMDs to stay in place where you want them to be. So my second runner-up, as far as like good stuff, is this here that I've been using for many years. It works. It's cheap. It's not the best out there, but it does work. It doesn't have that much smoke. The smell is not so bad. So if you have a fume extractor, you'll be just fine. So this is my second runner-up, and my new that I've switched to, it's my Mechanic Nano Flux paste, the M35. This stuff is really good. No boiling. It takes a lot of heat to cause this to start boiling and bubbling. It works really well with micro soldering and just everything else other than reballing. I just by choice I stick to the Kingbo for reballing, and then this stuff right here. Once the chip is already on the pad, then I come with this here, and I add a little bit extra, and that's it. But yeah, other than that, this stuff right here is not the original Kimbo RMA 218. This is knockoff Chinese stuff. This is my reballing paste, or flux, I mean. So for reballing, this is it here. And this garbage here, smoky, it stinks, it turns brown really easy. Stay away from this. This is shit. This is garbage. So yeah, that's it. All right, that's all I had for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hopefully it's not too long, but I just wanted to, just for funsies, just to show you guys what I work with the fluxes that I have tried, in my experience, what it has been with these fluxes. And yeah, this is a 6900 XT. By the way, just a pro bono that I thought I'll throw out there, is that this is what happens when you put your graphics card, or you store your graphics card in a place that is humid, and then you go and install it into a system and hit the power button. This is very typical of that. Your silicon could just explode like this, or if you drop your graphics card, this will also happen. This is another reason. So do you want to take a look and see what's in there? Let me turn this down. Yeah, this is not powerful enough to really get in there, but you can kind of see there's some. Let's see, let's get into this corner here, because I thought I saw something here. Yeah, there. Pretty interesting. I mean, yeah, it's dead and it'll never work again, but it is what it is. Well, there you have it, guys. As you can see, there is some differences, minor differences in between these flux. These two right here have been my the ones that I started with, you know, and I used this stuff for a while, for a couple of years. This one here for a couple of years. This one here took over this one, and this one just kind of fell off. And this one here has been my to-go flux for actually, you know, some years, and it works really well. To be honest, it does okay. It does okay. Let me rephrase that. It does okay. It gets the job done, and that's what matters to me. Also, it's not as smoky as this garbage here, and it doesn't stink as bad as this garbage here. This stuff is horrible. Even with a smoke extractor, you can kind of still smell that. Yeah, that smell, it's terrible. This stuff right here, this Relife stuff, this garbage, stay away from it. If you're doing micro soldering, this stuff right here can make your life difficult. Some like it, others don't. I happen to be on the others wagon, where I regret buying this because with micro soldering, for me, this stuff boiling that fast, not even using the my soldering tip, this stuff is already boiling at board temperature. So really, come on. This stuff right here, I use this stuff here for reballing, not for micro soldering, nothing like that, like SMDs, you know, soldering SMDs or anything like that, because it's hard to remove. This hardens up when the board cools off. But for reballing, this is perfect, and I will not use anything else. This is just it. Core reballing, memory reballing, that's my to-go flux. And this has been my new champ that I'm using now. This stuff actually works really well, surprisingly. Yeah, it is no Amtech or Siri or anything like that, but it does pretty well for micro soldering and, you know, just everyday BGA rework, that sort of thing. Not for reballing. I wouldn't use this for reballing because it is very liquidy. It runs, so it'll move your balls around once you start applying heat, and just that's been my experience. At least it doesn't matter how much I use, but it is good for everything else. This is perfect. So yeah, this is what I'm using now for just everyday, you know, mundane things, MOSFET replacements, anything like that, anything, micro soldering. That's been it. So that's it for me, guys. That's all I had. I don't want to make this video too boring, but I just wanted to kind of have some fun and show you guys my experience with this flux through the years, what they have been like for me. And as far as like Tony and Alex and their they're you know, going at it. I think it's mostly Tony just going at it, you know, poking at Alex, and Alex hasn't been taking it very well. But yeah, you know. And by the way, if you were to ask me if I didn't know how to repair graphics cards myself, I would totally send my cars to Tony. Yeah. He would be my to-go guy. Alex, if I had to reball a core or anything major like that, BJ rework, I wouldn't trust him. I'll just go straight to Tony. Tony will be the guy. So anyway, see you guys on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.